OK, we're going to start, though, with that developing story in Lisbon. Real Madrid's Champions League playoff tie at Benfica was stopped for 10 minutes after Vinicius Jr. reported alleged racist abuse by an opponent. A number of the newspapers are covering this, including The Sun. Just to fill you in on what happened, Sun here has got it there. Vinicius walk-off. A number of other newspapers have picked up on it as well, because it is a big, big story. This not the first time it has happened. Vinicius walk-off, Brazilian in race row by Martin Blackburn in The Sun. He just scored, Vinicius Jr. He'd celebrated, which some of the Benfica players had not taken kindly to, including Gianluca Prestiani. They exchanged some words. That is Prestiani there. You can see him covering his mouth. They exchanged words, then Prestiani covered his mouth, said something, and immediately Vinicius Jr. ran to the referee and told him he'd been racially abused. The referee then immediately stopped the game, as is the UEFA protocol, and it was stopped for 10 minutes in the end. You can see the referee here being told by Vinicius, this is in The Guardian. Soon after that, he made a sign which signals the game is to be stopped. It can only be started again if players on both sides agree to restart it, which is what must have happened, because 10 minutes later it did. But in the meantime, Vinicius, as you can imagine, looked visibly upset. There was all sorts going on off the pitch, on the pitch with some of the players. One of the Benfica backroom staff got sent off, and it was just pretty ugly scenes all round. John, if I could come to you first on this then. As I mentioned there, it's not the first time this has happened. In fact, it's the third time Vinicius Jr. has been involved in this kind of a situation with racism involved. If this is true, if what was said was racist, is this arguably the most blatant instance of it that we've seen involving Vinicius?
Well, I think it's certainly the most high profile because of the Champions League setting. I did watch it unfold, and it's truly shocking and disgraceful, incredibly upsetting. I just cannot believe that in 2026, football still hasn't really, I don't feel, got a handle on this. I mean, imagine if you are Vinicius Jr., who's a wonderful player, an absolute genius on the ball, scored an absolutely incredible goal. And do you know what he did next? He celebrated. I mean, imagine having the audacity to do that. And then basically, he did it, yes, admittedly near the Benfica fans, but that's what he does. That's the joy of the game. He's a beautiful player. He's entitled to celebrate. And the one that gets punished in the immediate aftermath is Vinicius Jr. for the celebration. I mean, just honestly, it defies belief. You know, Look, I think the referee is then faced with a difficult situation. I do get that. But what does that look like? You know, then basically the sort of kind of the immediate yellow goes for him. And there is an anti-racism protocol here, which was, put into place by the referee, Francois Letexia. And, it's a difficult one to deal with. It was Vinicius Jr. who then leaves the pitch, walks off the pitch, takes a seat in the dugout, and at that stage, as you rightly say, it's the players can, I guess, join him, and they have to agree to restart. But this is not, as you say, the first time it's happened to Vinicius. He's been sent off twice, I think, in Spain for instance, after being racially abused during the game. Honestly, what on earth are we thinking about here? Trent Alexander-Arnold describing it as a disgrace to football, I think, afterwards. Honestly, if this doesn't shine a light and really shame football and shame it into really taking stronger action against the perpetrators, against the people that do that, then really, I don't know where we are, because we're in a World Cup year and a strong message absolutely has to be sent out after this absolutely shocking, disgraceful episode.
Yeah, Daniel, John makes some really good points there. A lot of people seem to not like Vinicius Jr. They don't like the way he celebrates. They just generally don't like his behaviour. But the bottom line is, isn't it, that none of that ever excuses racism.
Yeah, you're allowed not to like footballers. You're allowed to have your favourites and you're allowed to have your least favourites. But there is a line, and it's many, many miles before incidents like this. I was also fairly disappointed in his teammates, in Prestiani's teammates. I think if, as John says, this is the highest profile incident. I think Vinicius in 2024 in an interview said, if it happens again, I'm just going to walk off the pitch. He's told people what's going to happen. He said, I'm going to need to take my own stand because I don't feel like football is doing enough for me. So if it happens again, I walk. It happened again. He said, he tells the referee it's happened again and he walks. In that situation, I would have liked Real Madrid's players to walk off with him and say, no, we won't come back until that player is substituted. You can say, well, that changes the dynamic of the game. So what? Football doesn't matter on a Tuesday night in the Champions League, whatever the occasion, if it is allowed to take precedent over an incident of racial abuse. And again, you just feel for Vinny, who is, he won't want to let down his teammates. He will want to carry on playing, but he will be sat there tonight thinking, well, what else do I have to do? This is 1, 2, 3 times. Once is never, twice is always. It's happened 3 times. What does that mean? Can I ever be, can I ever trust to go on a pitch again in this competition and not be abused by supporters? And it's, it's far, far too far. And it's not on one person. It shouldn't be him carrying the weight of that responsibility, whether it's for that game, for his team, for the anti-racist movement.
Wow, Jody Morris, what a night it was at Molineux. Great to have you with me, mate. It's still very much, as the Arsenal fans watching will know, in Arsenal's hands. However, for the first time, it is also in Manchester City's hands. Is this now Pep's title to lose, if I phrase it that way?
Yes, I suppose you can say that. I mean, that's purely in the running, it has to be. But this is not a Man City team that we're used to seeing in previous seasons. I know last year they wasn't great. But again, this year, I don't think they've performed to the levels that Pep is used to his teams performing at. And I think there's been plenty of periods and opportunities during the season already this year where they've had opportunities to close gaps and they've fallen themselves. I think it's been that type of season, and that's the reason why I still believe that it'll be Arsenal that will get over the line, because of how vulnerable this City team are defensively.
We heard from Bukayo Saka there. He says Arsenal's players are not feeling the pressure. Do you genuinely believe him when you watch the last couple of performances?
No, I don't. But that's not to say that I'm knocking him for saying that. I think as a player, and you should be coming out saying those things. And listen, they might not be feeling it and openly talking about it. It might just be a subconscious thing. I just believe that if you ain't feeling pressure now, considering what's happened in previous seasons, then when will you feel pressure? Because, I mean, they all of them want to get over the line and want to get this monkey off your back, if you like. And I believe that Arsenal will do it this year because of how strong their squad is.
How do you think Mikel Arteta quite literally manages the situation of this pressure cooker now within his squad?
Well, I think first and foremost, he's got experience in this area that before. A lot of the squad have got experience in this area where they have fallen away. I mean, a lot of critics have pointed the finger at Arsenal previously, and I believe maybe 3 years ago they can say that from where they kind of fell off a cliff a little bit towards the end. But Arsenal was still getting stick when I think it was either last season or season before where they won sort of like 8 or 9 games of their last 10 or 11. It's like, that's not a team that's fallen away. I believe if they do something similar this season, then I think they'll end up winning the league. But I believe Arteta will do similar to what he done, I think, when he spoke after they lost against Man United. And he just said, look, we need to gather our thoughts, make sure that we park that poor result against Man United. And they went to Leeds a few days later and absolutely spanked them. So I believe we'll get something similar from Arsenal.
And look, let's be completely honest. Manchester City are not really convincing anyone, are they, as well? And since the turn of the year, they have picked up exactly the same number of points as Arsenal in those 8 games. It's 13 from a possible 24. I mean, that's mid-table form. But come on, those guys would have been watching the game last night. Pep won't admit it, the City players won't admit it, but they would have been dancing around their living rooms thinking this is now a chance for us. And they will be thinking, will they not, Jody? This is Arsenal's. The heads have gone it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what you need to be like spreading throughout that Man City dressing room. They'll be reminding themselves, saying, look, we've been in this position before, we've been behind Arsenal, and we've managed to get in front of them. But again, as I said, I believe that Arsenal have got enough in the tank